So we spent a lot of time the last month wondering what the line combinations and deep pairings will look like for the Senators on opening night. Now, going by
Mm.
practice yesterday, a couple things we'll hit on here. It looks like Zetterlund will start with Kachuk and Stutzla, and Giroux is going to be on the Amadio spot, if you want to put it that way, in the third line with Greg and Pinto, and then Amadio's a second liner. Is this just early season stuff, and they're going to fix because they haven't really played their whole team together yet, right? Well, the way the preseason played out, like how do you think this is the way it's going to settle, or is this just Travis Green extending training camp? Just wondering. Well, I wonder if this will work.
I saw that, and it made me just sort of wonder. Okay, well, let's say Drake Batherson plays next game, which he might, right? He's on this trip. He might play game two, so he's obviously playing in the top six somewhere. So he's going to bump Zetterlund, who could be bumped way down to the fourth line or somewhere. He might bump Amadio, who would get bumped probably to the third line and not on a lineup. And it makes you wonder where's Claude Giroux going to go, because Claude Giroux, you don't think will end up as a fourth line player on the Ottawa Senators. So it's almost like they have 10 forwards for nine top three line spots. And someone is going to be out of that mix when everyone's healthy. And I don't think it's going to be Amadio, because I think they like that Greg and Pinto and Amadio. They are a really good checking line. So you're talking about, is it Perron? Is it Zetterlund? Who else is going to get bumped down? That's what I am not so sure. Claude Giroux, and that will be a tough decision, because those are all important players, veteran players, or Zetterlund guys that were required to do a specific thing, and someone's going to be sort of playing out of their preferred spot, which will not be a pleasant conversation to have. So I am curious. I guess depending on how it goes in game one and who plays well, that will factor into game two. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a good problem to have because you have so many good players, but someone's going to be ticked off for game two if Batterson's back in the lineup.
Stützle's faceoffs did improve a little bit last year, but it's still not a strength that he has, and it is certainly a
Mm-hmm.
strength of Claude Giroux. Do you think, and again, as things settle and probably a few games in, do you think that may end up being a factor? Is that something that a typical NHL team would think about? Like a Kachuk can take the left side draws, but if Stützle is still a below 50% faceoff guy, would they think about, well, part of what Claude Giroux can bring on that top line? He may not be able to bring what he used to before, but he can bring us faceoffs. Like, is that a big enough factor where he may find himself on the first line just based on that skill?
Probably not full time, right? Because Brady can take him on half the ice if you really want to. Now, if it's a defensive zone faceoff on the right side, then maybe Zetterlund gets pulled off and Giroux goes on. Absolutely. Situational specific usage for sure. But I don't think at the expense of run of play production that you're going to get, otherwise Manny Malhotra would be on the first line everywhere he went, right? Like you don't play it out like that. You don't disrupt your lineup and your bench just to get a face-off person out there, because while face-offs are important, we know that, and you can cite some goals that come off face-off. Generally speaking, especially at 5-on-5, face-offs are sort of overblown. I mean, you can count the goals that are scored within sort of 5 seconds of a face-off loss in the NHL, and it's not many. Now, I know Malkin and the Penguins got one on opening night. Like, it happens, and everyone can point the ones that happened. But out of the hundreds and hundreds of face-offs, very rarely does a loss draw result in a goal against. So you're not going to jump through hoops, especially throughout the course of a game. Last 5 minutes, last third minute of a period, power play, penalty kill. Yes, yes, yes. But just 5-on-5 regular game, probably not. So I don't think that would be the deciding factor to get Claude Giroux to the first line, just because he can take face-offs well.
So Batherson and Clevin skated a little bit with the group yesterday before leaving. They're both not available tonight, and it a little bit interesting on the back end. If we judge by what happened at practice yesterday, Mike, it looks like Spence will be a scratch, and Matt and
Hmm.
Paolo will stay in, and he'll play with Sabrango on that third pair. And we've been talking that up. That was a shrewd draft day move to bring him in, and we'll see what happens tonight. But it appears he's not going to play. What do you make of that?
I mean, I goes to the incumbent. I don't know. I mean, I think Spence was brought in for a reason. He's a good puck mover, and Matt and Paolo had a nice year last year, surprising year last year. Maybe there's a comfort with Sabrango. Maybe the two of them sort of stylistically fit each other. Clearly, the righties don't want to play the left, because you think you put Spencer or Matt Paolo in ahead of Sabrango. So we'll see. We'll see. But it is surprising. And maybe some of it has to do with who they're playing. Sort of a tough offensive team to play against in Tampa on the road. Maybe you want someone that a little bit better, that you kind of trust, that you whatever's going to happen, you're not going to be surprised by what Martin Paolo can do. So Seth will get in there, and he will play an important role because he's a good player. He's a guy who can pass that puck around. So he might just have to bide his time, and maybe Clevin and him make a more natural pairing that Travis Green will feel comfortable with, and they'll get in there sooner than later. But, yeah, and when you get to a new team, it's very frustrating that you haven't been able to establish a foothold in the lineup. You understand the organization is invested in you doing well. They traded for you. They brought you in for a reason. Part of the reason you're there is, their top prospect, and Yakimchuk is not, and yet you're still not in the lineup. That would be a frustrating start for Spence.
One of the things I think everybody is keen to see is, are the Sens going to be able to improve their 5-on-5 scoring? Are they going to be able to find more goals? I think the guy I'm going to watch the closest, we saw him for a little bit last year, was Dylan Cousins. What do you think he's capable of? Because we've got one season of 31 goals, which right now looks like an aberration, because the rest of it is between 15 and 20. Is he likely just at the end of the day, like he's a big body and he carries the puck through the middle of the ice really nice? He can be physical at times, but at the end of the day, is he just maybe a max 20-goal scorer?
Yeah, you're hopeful that one, 30 goals and 70 points he had in Buffalo, that's not the outlier, and that, there is more there. But I think this is the year that we'll know, because different situation, team that needs him to do what you hope he can do, and that is be a 25-goal, 55, 60-point guy and do it consistently. I'm of two minds. Like, I watch him play, and sometimes I don't see that kind of dynamic play around the net. Sort of, he's good at advancing the ball down the field, but he's not good at punching it over the goal line, if that analogy makes sense.
Yep.
I look at his shot, and I'm like, I don't know how well he shoots it. But then I also can remember when I've seen him play at the World Championship, where he's just sniping wrist shots left and right past goaltenders. I'm like, I don't even think he shoots it that hard, but he still can score. So I am optimistic that there is certainly more than a teen level goal scorer. Like, he'll get in the 20s. Like, he's better get in the 20s given the trade that they made and the amount that they pay him. I don't think he's a natural goal scorer. So 30, 35 will not come easily, and maybe that might take a special kind of season. But 2025, that should be sort of the baseline expectation that I think he can hit.
So the opposition tonight, Tampa, no Nick Paul, and such an important player. He's going to be out until November or so after a surgery. And what happened in the preseason cost him two players on opening night. Gergensen took the hit from Verhaeghe. He's out, and Moser's suspended. What's the bigger loss between maybe Paul and Moser? Because Moser is Hedman's partner, and we know Nick Paul just does so many things for that team.
Yeah, I mean, I think, probably Moser, just because he plays a bigger role, probably plays more minutes. They had gone through camp with Moser part of the natural rotation, whereas Paul has never been around, so they're sort of prepared for him to be gone. Yeah, there is a follow from that crazy game they had with Florida. But the thing about Tampa is that they can comfortably lean on their top guys. Like, in short bursts, they don't mind having Gensel and Point and Kucherov, and Sorelli and Hagel. Like, they have a lot of good players still, and they can play the heck out of those guys. They can play 24, 25 minutes in the short term if that matters. Hedman can do the same in the back end, McDonough, whatever it is. So, yeah, it's not ideal to not have your starting lineup and to lose guys to suspension like Moser, but I think Tampa is a good team. I think Tampa, in the conversation of the Atlantic, is almost overlooked because of Florida, the two-time champs, because Toronto takes up a lot of oxygen with their successes and failures, because of Montreal and Ottawa's ascension. You forget that Tampa was such a good team last year. Like, their goal differential was plus 70 or plus whatever it was, plus 80. They piled on the offense second half of the year. They just had a tough playoff against Florida, like most teams have. But in my preseason picks, I have Tampa winning the division. I think they just score well enough. Their star players are still really good. As long as Vasilevsky stays healthy and is good like he was last year, I think they will be consistently good all year long because their offense and their power play are so dynamic, and that's what makes them a challenge.
Toronto beat Montreal 5-2 last night. What'd you make of the game from both teams' perspective?
It was not Toronto won, but they didn't play well. It was pretty much a 50-50 toss-up game. Toronto just found a way to get it in the end. No real standout performances, except I thought Stolarz was really good in net, which is a good sign for Toronto because I think he's going to have to be. I thought that Morgan Rielly, who he talked a little bit about in training camp, and he lost weight, and he had a meeting with the coach and the GM, and he wanted to turn things around and get back to who he was. I thought he was like the most dangerous player at 5-on-5 for Toronto. He was all over the offensive end, and that was a good sign. But so a good win, not a great game for Toronto. For Montreal, that was a pretty good game on the road to open another team's building. I thought they were every bit deserving to win that game. They had plenty of chances, just couldn't get it done. So not a ton to be frustrated about other than the result for the Montreal Canadiens, because they, if you look at the old deserve to win-o-meter, I'm sure it was 50-50 or maybe even slightly favoring Montreal.
And finally, Boston beats Washington on their opening night. Is the way it happened the template? If Boston's going to surprise a lot of people, 3 points from Pasternak and Swayman's awesome.
Yeah. So what all we needed was McAvoy having a good shutdown game. You go, there it is. Like, that's what you got. You have a goaltender who can be great. I'm happy for Swayman, who had a tough year last year after that contract negotiation. He can be really good. He was really good in that game. Washington was all over them. And then the first line, you say Pasta, but also Lindholm and Geekie. Like, they have to score. Well, they scored 3 goals in the game, and guess who got all 3? Pasternak, Lindholm, Geekie. That is the recipe. It's a tough one because if those guys go dry or Swayman doesn't play well, they might struggle. But that was the template. If they can pull it off, they'll be competitive. And that was, I know it's one game. We're not going to read anything into it. That was a game that Washington won every time last year. Every time. When they outplay someone, when they generate enough chances. Right? Let Logan Thompson lose 6 games last year. He never lost. And so that's what, the regression for Washington in the East, the regression for Winnipeg in the West, that was sort of I'm worried about, because everything went right last year. And even if you play the same way, they probably do worse this year, because that's just the nature of sports. And that was a game they won last year, and it was one that they lost last night.
All right, you'll be on the TV side of things for the Sens broadcast tonight. What's the suit game tonight? What's the call?
It's way too early in the morning to figure that out.
Okay.
That's a game time decision.
All right.
I wish it would be fun if the TV adopted the casual dress code that the players got to adopt. And I could just wear a T-shirt and a pair of track pants in would be nice. But yes, I will get dressed up. Opening night will be on point, and it'll be fun to be in studio and watch the Sens go at it.
Tell them you don't want to stand. Just go shorts, okay? Just do that.
Back in the day, there was some summer programming we would do, maybe 10 years ago at TSN, and the studio would be hot, and I would wear shorts. 100% I would wear shorts with a dress shirt, tie, and jacket. You'd never know because you couldn't see it. But yeah, when it's hot, you do what you got to do.
Yeah. Damn TSN with their see-through desks now that they've adopted for somewhere.
The old jib camera ruined the whole thing.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Look forward to your call tonight. Appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll chat again on Monday.
All right, fellas. Have a good weekend.